Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the last session of this conference, our panel discussion. I hope everybody has some energy left since it's a late Friday afternoon session. Because we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, as I think, open educational resources. Well, I think it is very obvious that the open educational resources movement is getting more and more pushed and supported. And it's a very growing movement. So for example, in July, the German Ministry of Education and Research, they published an OER strategy, so that you can see that the politics are very interested in that topic. But on the other hand, as I perceive it, the OER thing raises many questions. And so I'm glad that we have some experts here. It should be actually 4, but one had to cancel due to a COVID infection. But I'm very happy that we have 3 guests here that are heavily involved in the topic of OER. And yes, guys, I would like you to introduce yourself. Please tell us who you are and in which way you are connected to the OER topic. Sushumna, would you like to start?
Thank you, Harold. First of all, thank you so much. And one word I want to start with. Because of OER, I am in this panel. Thanks to OER movement, because I started my journey as a content writer and instructional designer. And when the e-learning is in the shape of computer-based training and web-based training, we used to call, then it became online learning. Well, I am Sushma Rao. I'm from India. Right now, I am a faculty trainer for my college based in Chennai, and I'm a Moodle certified educator. When as a part of my education, I came to know about free and open source tools, similarly open educational resources. And then I developed passion towards it, and I started, it's kind of a self-taught first, and then I have done free courses available online and free information available online about open licensing and open educational resources. And since then, no looking back, and started using various, repurposing OER while even training my teachers on various ICT tools and education technology. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Sushumna. Susanne, your turn.
Thanks for having me. My name is Susanna Grimm. I am an editor at OER Info. That's the central platform on open educational resources in Germany. Our aim is to inform the general public, but also the professional public about OER services, platforms, projects in order to push the topic of OER. I came in contact with OER actually in the year 2013 when I worked for Erasmus+. And then I did my master on the topic, and afterwards worked for the Federal Institute of TVET on OER in TVET as a transfer partner for OER Info, and right now I am an editor at OER Info. Thanks.
Thank you. Robert, your turn.
Yes, thank you for having me here. And my name is Robert Schuwer. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a professor of OER at the Fontes University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands, based in Eindhoven. I'm involved in OER since 2006, and I'm doing applied research to adoption of OER by teachers and institutions.
Okay, then I would like to start asking questions. Robert, I would like to start with you. And I would like to start with a rather critical question. You know, recently I was sitting next to a university professor, and she said to me, you know, OER is a great idea. I love it. I love the idea that everyone has access to educational resources. I love it that those materials are improved and reused and everything and so on. But the creation of OER like the execution of everything, can be quite annoying from time to time. So, for example, as you said, there's a huge insecurity, for example, about the copyright law within the community of teachers. And there's not enough resources for contact persons that help with that. And there's a lot of effort you have to put in. For example, you have to tag those materials with metadata, upload them to some repository, and so on. So there's a lot of things that hinder people to create OER. So what do you think? What can we do to help those who create OERs? What can we do to make their lives easier?
Well, actually, creating OER is teamwork. That's not the task of an individual teacher. The teacher is responsible for the content, but the team who should support the teacher is there should be a copyright expert in it. In most cases, it could be a librarian. There is actually in the States, it's already for several years now, there is a role they call the OER librarian, especially with the knowledge to support teachers in copyright questions, but also in uploading and adding metadata to the resources to make it better findable. That's actually what their knowledge and skills are.
Is it an example from the Netherlands, or is it?
No,
like
that's an example all over the world. This OER librarian actually started in the States, not in the Netherlands, and so when this support is available. There could be an institution, in most cases it is an institution, but it could also be organized across institutions. For instance, in the Netherlands we have the SURF organization who does a lot to support the supporters, but also to support teachers who are want to be involved in this movement. But for this support to be available and for the teachers to really get the time to do it, I think there's also a vision needed and a kind of open policy within the institution. Otherwise, well, especially at research universities, they say, okay, actually my time is for research, not for education. And well, that's one barrier you didn't mention, but that is a barrier I came across in my research.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, Susanne, Sushumna, on that? I think this is a thing that everybody is familiar with, I guess.
Yeah, let's say it seems that OER for teachers or educators, it's just another topic on top of everything. But as soon as you start to get in touch with it, actually, before I want to go deeper into the topic, I would have 2 or 3 really quick questions for the audience, actually, if I may. The term open educational resources, short OER, was dropped several times today in several talks, but it was never introduced actually. And I was wondering who of you actually came across the term open educational resources before today, before the conference. So if you just hold up your hand. So we're kind of preaching to the choir, right? So you know the term, but you also know the concept behind it. You know about the Creative Commons licenses. You can name several OER repositories or repositories. No. So let's get started from the beginning, actually, because we want everybody to know what we're talking about, right? So. As you may know or may not know, OER can be anything. It can be a single worksheet, it can be an online course, or it can be a whole textbook, actually. Digital or otherwise, so says the definition. But OER mostly reside in the digital space, since it is far more easier to engage in the 5R permissions. I don't know if you know them. The 5R permissions are to retain, to reuse, to revise, to remix, and to redistribute learning and teaching material on a wider scope. So the first challenge actually is for the teachers to tap into their digital skills, but also into their legal skills, as you said, because OER also resides in the public domain or is licensed by an open license. So, but imagine teachers wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel over and over and time again, and using and producing diverse learning and teaching material. I'm talking different formats, different media types, I'm talking different approaches, and being able to evolve from lonely wolves to team players. Now, it's not that true that that teachers are lonely wolves, actually. They know how, they do share their material quite often, actually. They do share it with their colleagues. They do share it with, in a smaller group of colleagues. So you don't have to introduce them, actually, to the culture of sharing. They even share it on Facebook, they share it on Twitter via the Twitter hashtag Twitter Lehrerzimmer, or sharing is caring. But they don't so much share their material under an open license or on the renowned platforms. They share it on YouTube, but they don't share it under an CC license, which you are able to do so on YouTube, actually. And my question is, why don't they? Is it really because they don't know about open educational resources? Is it really they don't know about the Creative Commons licenses? Or is it maybe because of, I don't know, fear of critics from all sides? But critics come if you share material as open or not. So that's a question I'm asking myself, actually.
Well, I can forward this question to the others. I guess it's a mix of all. But yeah, very interesting question. Thanks for clarifying the term of open education resources. So, guys, what do you think? Susanne brought up some more arguments.
Yeah, I would continue, Susanne. First, thanks for clarifying that to the audience, what OER is. I like the question that she posed, whether you know OER prior to the session, and if you know, whether you really can name some repositories or talk about open licenses. That's a very good question. Usually what happens is they do know, teachers, as you said, they do share material everywhere in various publishing platforms. Maybe a lack of awareness about the licensing terms and also not just about the terms, also about that particular publishing platform. For example, you named YouTube, that provides, of course, at least one option to provide the CC license. And not everybody are aware of that, maybe. Just I'm sharing on a public platform. That is more important for a teacher to share some material rather than thinking about what kind of a license I should be adding. And also, one more point I would like to add here is the required digital skills that may be taxing them sometimes. Like just uploading a video to any platform is much easier than thinking about how do I go back and edit, add a description, add a license to it, or some other information, maybe. That's what I'm thinking. Lack of awareness, or sometimes skill, and very important, as Robert said, the time. Teachers require some support from a team. That today I heard in one of the presentations that they're doing a community of practice, and they're involving students to create OER with the CC by SA license. But then they are moderating, that a team is moderating whether the licensing terms are correct, they applied, whether a properly material is used to share with that kind of a license. So this kind of a team is very much, that support is very much required in an institution for the teachers. That's what I feel.
I think there is a much bigger question for teachers to get involved in OER than the licensing question. And actually there are two. The first is, for a teacher, it should be very clear what's in it for me. Why should I be involved? Is it because the institution wants it? As you say, some teachers share the learning materials with their colleagues, in most cases because they together give a course. It's not one teacher who gives a course, but it's a team of teachers, as actually in Netherlands that's often the case. So they share, they share the learning materials in a safe environment. They know their colleagues. They know that they can get feedback, but it is a safe environment. It is not so safe if you share it in open. Few teachers will share it on YouTube or whatever because, well, it's in their genes maybe, or they have I'm paid by taxpayers, so I think everything I create should be publicly available. But there's only a small minority of teachers who think that way. But most teachers think, why should I do it? What's in it for me? And I think that's the clue. How can we connect to the heart of the teacher, the passion of the teachers in teaching? It's not in licensing, it's not in sharing, it's in teaching. So if you can connect to his or her vision of teaching, that's how I often start the discussions with teachers. So what's hindering you that you can give your perfect lesson? And then they come up with all kinds of things what's hindering them. And in most cases, open is not the answer for their problem. Then they can go, oh, open is not the solution for everything. It's a solution for some things. But if you can convince them that for their problem or for part of the problems, open can be a solution, then they are interested. And then they also think, okay, then I should know something about licensing and so. But when you start talking with teachers and in 2 minutes you talk about licensing, you've lost them. They are not interested in that because they don't know it should be clear for them what's in that. And the second thing is everything is always about sharing. Also when you read literature, it's always about sharing. But what about reuse? There is so little research done on reuse. The most research on reuse is about what's hindering reuse, but not how is reuse taking place. What is actually reuse? I did a study in the Netherlands about reuse. What was the main thing? What was the reuse? The idea in the material. So people are browsing the OER. They see the material and say, hey, this is a nice idea. Maybe I can use it in my lesson. They don't use the material, they use the idea behind it. That's the most reused thing from OER.
Okay, thank you. So as I've understood correctly, like the teaching is not valued enough. I think this is a very old discussion and it comes again here in the OER topic. If teaching would be valued higher, I think teachers would have more motivation to open their education.
Are we talking about teachers in primary, secondary school system, TVET system, or are we talking about teaching in further education? Because in higher education, I mean, because there it is this different statuses of teaching and research, actually. But
I mainly refer to higher education because this is kind of my topic. But of course, we are free to speak about all levels. In higher education, this is an old topic that the teaching is not valued enough. Because it's all about research. Okay, I would go to the next question. Susanne, let's say it that way. In the good old days, it was like that. Teachers and publishers produced the learning material and then they provided it to the students, to the pupils, whatever. Nowadays, as you say, the educational material is everywhere. It's on YouTube, it's on every platform. You can find it like everywhere. And plus, due to the open educational movement, everybody can not only be a consumer of learning material, they can also be a producer. So how does that affect the culture of teaching and learning from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about OER and the benefits of teaching and learning we're always talking about benefits only for the teaching staff. But we almost never talk about the benefits for OER for the other main character in learning settings, which are the students, actually the pupils. So there is this. I'm from TVET actually, and there's this OER in TVET isn't very easy to grasp actually because there are not so much practice examples. But there's one really nice, beautiful example. It's called KFZ for me, so what's it about? Imagine students or pupils aren't only the end users of learning and teaching material, but are also referred to as co-producers or even producers. So what happened in that project, KFZ for me, they instructed the students to create their own explanatory videos in order to learn not only about their professional traits, but also about media skills and even language skills. So this material, these OER videos are uploaded onto YouTube under an open license, and then fellow pupils can use this material, also fellow pupils from other years to come, and they can not only use that, but also reuse that in order, for example, changing it into other media formats, for example, through H5P, transcript, for example, to do subtitles on the videos for maybe students with a multilingual background, for example, or reuse the material for the next years to come. So that changes the teaching and learning, I guess, in quite a sense, introducing learners as co-producers and as equally valued, I would say.
It's a great topic. Co-creation involving students to develop is really a good practice too. Like as I was talking about the kind of burden the teachers will have when Robert also pointed out, like first we have to say share and then talk about a license or the later material part. So once you involve students into this co-creation of either reusing or repurposing or producing, as you said, not just always users, but also consumers, but also prosumers. Yeah, but then sometimes, yes, the OER really talks about more about these 5 R's, but sometimes a situation or the context might demand to produce in certain topics or certain subjects that teacher deals with in. So then definitely co-creation, not just involving the students, but maybe collaborating as a team. As the very first sentence Robert spoke about is OER is not just a one-person creation. It's a teamwork, collaboration, and co-creation that really works. And I think definitely quality OER we can see it when it is different perspectives goes into one total piece of OER when it comes out. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, one term which is, I think it was introduced by David Wiley, the non-disposable assignment. I think it was called, and that's. In most cases, you do a course and you get an exam, and the teacher is grading the exam, and then you have to save those exams for a couple of years because of the law, and the only purpose of this whole exercise is that you can say to a student you have passed or you have failed. That's it. And what David Wiley came up with is, well, you could also think about other forms of exams, and actually in the COVID times, this was done more and more. Those alternative forms of exams that instead of making an exam like in the old days, they were graded by making something. And this making something could be co-creating some material, but it could also be adding to the Wikipedia on the topic of the course. And thereby that are two things. First, the quality of the article should be sufficient to pass or fail the course, but also you also learn to deal with the community of Wikipedia, which can be rather harsh when you make a mistake, and that's, of course, in digital world we are living in, that's more and more the case, that you have to deal with discussions on these types of media. And the end result is available for the public who paid the tax, who are the taxpayers, who can also, at least in Netherlands, they pay the universities, our public universities, and so the teachers are also paid by taxpayers' money. So the results of this teaching is available for the public. But that's another way of thinking about education by a teacher, and I think a lot is there in the skills and the creativity, actually the quality of the teacher in making good use of the opportunities OER can potentially offer. It's at the end is the teacher.
Okay, thank you guys. Sushumna, now a rather broad question maybe. I would like to refer to our keynote speaker, Dr. Adam, from Wednesday. She said, that I think above 90% or more than 95% of all MOOCs and open educational 89% of all MOOCs and open educational resources are produced in the so-called global north. I was like stunned by this. I was like, oh, really? So obviously, open education provides a rather one-sided perspective, it seems to me. So what do you think? What are the reasons for that it's not so distributed in the global south? And maybe what can we do to foster it there? And can you, in this context, maybe tell us from your work in India, how, your efforts to implement open education in India?
Yeah, it's quite
it's a broad question, I know.
One. Yes, I do agree that, as Adam said, 89, but that's why I remember it, the percentage too. Yeah, 89% comes from this part of the world. And as you all are discussing about reusing and repurposing and making more, of course, I'm also involved in a project where reusing and repurposing textual or image or video content into interactive using HYP. But then, even now, we are, like me, there are many practitioners, we are passionate people around there. They are still conducting workshops and taking, to just first create awareness about that. Hey, look, these are the repositories that are available. These are the open what exactly is open educational resource? From there we have to start. Maybe that's a lack of awareness. You know, the lack of awareness even about open educational resource first. Whether leave about licensing and other stuff first, whether they can use it or not. First fear, and then when they publish something, as they said that as a teacher, they do share that's there in their own culture. They do share the material, whether within the campus or sometimes some teachers outside, maybe a fear of taking the criticism first thing when you share publicly. And then even when you take it and then how to implement it, that's also a challenge for them. So even now, the first answer for me is even now we are struggling, and then we are trying to create awareness about open educational resources first, to make them aware that, hey, look, these are such kind of materials available. But then the very first question that comes to their mind is whether, hey, can I use it freely? Can I share it? That's the first question I listen. Yes, you can, but then not just in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We can, as I do experience that many a times, the moment I say, okay, you can use it, but look at the license. And the moment I say, oh, there are these types of licenses, the teacher, no, this is very difficult for me. I cannot really adopt or adapt. They just go step back. So to first make them understand what it is and then how to use, and then maybe we can ask them definitely, as I said earlier, the context and the kind of community they are in. Definitely there is a demand to create open educational resources that suits the environment they are in. For example, there is a wonderful repository recently I came across interactive content with the open license, but that is, the examples given in them are more native to their area, the geography. But then when it comes to in India and some part of the places where to create more nativity, to make learner really get connected to that content, maybe they have to change it, reuse it, or repurpose it depending upon the license. But then, are they aware of it first?
Awareness again, yes.
Yeah. And then next comes a skill, digital skill, basic ICT skills first. And then one more, I think this is a major question that even audience can maybe respond on this, that are all OER are really friendly, either to, in a layman's terms, to say download and reuse it? Or sometimes they just, we do see a lot of material with open license, but then you can't really, where there is no infrastructure, for example, to use that, you need to have an internet connectivity, you need to have a system or a tab or something to access it. Or sometimes you see a wonderful video somewhere and then a teacher might think to download and reuse it. But then that skill, he may or she may not have it first. And then first is not awareness is not there. Second is the required skill may not be there. Even the skill is there, the material is not supporting to really adapt sometimes.
So awareness, skills, and infrastructure, as you said.
Infrastructure, yes. Awareness, and the required skills.
Yeah.
Yes, those are the hindrances.
Okay. Some more opinions about that? Let's go back to the previous question, like, why is the vast majority of this open education resources coming from the global north? Like 98%. Well, I had an idea it was the majority, but that it is like the vast majority like that. I was really surprised about that.
Yeah, I saw Taskin's keynote on Wednesday evening, and it was really eye-opening for me, actually. I never thought of the injustice in concept with OER. And so it was eye-opening, and I had to talk to her. The other morning I saw her in the hotel, and I was talking to her. And the thing is, maybe I never came across that topic is because Germany doesn't so much export OER, because we're producing OER for German-speaking countries, and German is spoken only in 2 or 3 countries. Maybe there are small communities in Argentina, for example, but we're not able to export and kind of post-colonialize, which is a real hard topic, the world with our OER. What we do sometimes is import, actually, material from the US or English-speaking material via OER repertories, but yeah, I don't know. I have to get into the topic more to be able to talk about it. But what I felt necessary is that we would introduce this question into the German OER speaking community, since it's a very important and interesting question, actually. And I was able to ensure a blog post by Ms. Adams for OER Info. So stay tuned.
I want to add one more. Maybe is it because the visibility, for example, because past few years, of course, since 2007, there are a lot of efforts going on in India. Like, for example, for school system, we have a platform called Diksha, we call it, where the entire material is with open license. And similarly, for higher education, we do have, for technical, we have NPTEL videos, we call it. They're all with open license. And there are for masters, there are some material available, but then maybe we don't have a good visibility. Maybe. Is it? It could be the reason.
Yeah, maybe it is. I can't explain why so much seems to come from the global north. I didn't know these figures. I know few examples coming from the global south, like Siafola in Africa, which is already, I think, more than 10 years doing a great job in creating textbooks, open textbooks with communities of teachers. For instance, all science topics. Maybe it is a kind of awareness, these OER are based on the Western values and norms we have, and those can conflict with values from the global south. But on the other hand, then it is the awareness of, well, when you have an open license, you can change it. You can add those voices which are not present in these materials. You can add it yourself, and vice versa. That could also be done in a global north. And there is actually a strong movement in an open world, which is getting asking attention for this part of OER, that you have the opportunity by making your learning materials more diverse, also in the global north. And I think that's very worthwhile.
Yeah, maybe one more point.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it because of the kind of funding they get the side of the globe to develop OERs, maybe? It could also be one of the reasons, because as the very first topic we started with is what is in it for me if a teacher wants to develop. So
money is always a point, yes.
Maybe, I'm just thinking.
I don't know, because funding is in most cases only for the first part, to start building a collection.
Yeah.
And then the $1,000 question comes. Okay, then this funding ends, and how can we sustain this activity? And this could be part of the answer, to be in the open, to make it visible for everyone, that others will see it, and others not only from your region, but from the whole region. And actually, I think UNESCO has a big task there, and they are doing this in the recommendation, which was accepted in 2019. They are working towards such a situation that in 2030, Sustainable Development Goal 4 will be fulfilled. That every citizen in the world can have access to high quality learning, and OER is an important means to reach this goal. And they have now a five topic action plan where governments who have the member states of UNESCO, they have signed it unanimously, have to make efforts to make it happen in their country.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to take a look on the watch, and so I'm going to ask my last question, and then we have some time for questions from the audience. Yeah, well, as I said in the beginning, open science, open education is more and more supported by governments and politicians. For me, who's rather looking from the outside on the OER world, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a producer of OER or whatever. I always wonder, what does that mean for the private publishers? What is their role in that? Of course, they will not disappear, I know. Of course, there will always be learning materials that you can sell on a commercial basis and so on. But still, what is their role in that? And can they even play a role to contribute to the open education movement? Are there some examples where they already do? This question goes to all of you.
Oh, everyone's looking at me. Well, I definitely think, and I've changed my mind in this. It is not us against them. I think it is a cooperation between publishers, commercial publishers, and the open world. In the Netherlands, we have a movement now that we are striving to a set of agreements with publishers, commercial publishers, so that we can use their materials and they can and mix them with open materials and have a role for publishers in creating and using open materials, but it would be on the terms of the institutions, not on the terms of the publishers. That is the aim of the set of agreements, because they are doing a wonderful job and they have a lot of skills which are very useful for creating those learning materials. But it should be on terms of the institution. The public values should be safeguarded and not, and that is where the set of agreements will address then. And you ask about publishers. I know a couple of publishers who are already making a step for instance, in creating or in hosting open educational resources. They are created by institutions in the Netherlands, and they are hosting it on their platform. So those OER are available for free. Their business model is in the platform. So you are not. It's free for everyone to use, but if you want to use extensive use of this platform, then you have to pay for license as an institution. That's one Graspel is the publisher who is having that business model, but their vision is we only use open educational resources. So that's. But it is a small publisher, and I think the small edtech companies, the small publishers, they are rather innovative in this sense, and maybe we should start there and should start working more with those kinds of publishers than with the big publishers who are having a lot of materials. But especially for these big publishers, we first have this set of agreements set.
Interesting, thanks, yeah.
Yeah, I do have an example. Like, as you said, you should go first to the small publishers. Like one K-12 publishers whom I knew very well, and they were doing, they're using the same YouTube medium to release English lectures. For grammar lectures, and a very good teacher is talking, and then because once I was part of their team, so they posted me some videos. So, hey, look, we are posting every week one video on English grammar. I said then the very first time when I talked about OER a few years back, they were not really. They're really reluctant, but then when they came to me and said, hey, we are posting these videos, I said, come, hey, let's have a meeting for half an hour. Let me explain you what open license is. Why don't you release these with open license? And if you want to choose, of course, YouTube won't give us an option to choose what license we want to release with, but only mentions CC. Then I gave them an option. Look, these are the various options. You can choose any one option and keep it on your video and release it, so that teachers, such a good material is that, and teachers without any doubt or any hindrance, they can utilize, repurpose and reuse that particular videos where not just the teachers, you know, there are some schools back out there where there is one teacher handles 5 classes. So there is a lot of burden on a teacher to deliver a lecture in every class, go and teach in every class. So they might require these kind of resources sometimes to play or to use in that scenario. So they can use it very happily with open license, just attributing them. Don't ask me what license they chose. Of course, the most restrictive one they chose. But still, I'm happy that more than 100 videos they released on YouTube. It's, I think, if I'm not, I can say the word, Arrow Publications. They released these 100 videos with the open license. So maybe that is the first step. Maybe they'll understand more, and they might. I'm really hoping that these kind of movements should start from a small publishers. Slowly, it can reach to the bigger ones.
Sounds nice. Susanne, you want to add something?
I actually wanted to underline what Robert said. It's not them against us. It's not us against them.
Yes.
Actually, in the beginning, when I started to get into OER in 2013, it was kind of that. We wouldn't want to talk with the publishers wouldn't want to talk with us. So, but the point is they have the knowledge to perfectionize material. Now, OER is never finished, so that would be kind of topic to address for the publishers. But the question, there are some publishers, even bigger ones actually, who also already tried out some OER publishing, BALS, for example, or BBAW in Germany. But actually, interesting enough is that the topic OER publisher was addressed at the OER camp in December in Hamburg, where Bündnis Freie Bildung asked the community if a OER publisher would be necessary and what components would be needed and who could participate and how would that work out. So they interviewed several publishers, and all of them, I don't have any names and I don't want to mention, they weren't yet very interested in cooperating with the OER community. They said they could publish additional material under CC license, but that's not a big deal actually for them because they already publish additional material, not on under a CC license, but for free. So that would be a small attribution actually. So we were asking if people in the community were able to do this publishing things, but I actually don't believe so. I think that the competencies lie within the publishers, and that they would really need to find new business models, how to distribute their learning and teaching material under open license.
Okay, it seems that there's a lot of potential left for some corporations. Okay, thank you guys. I think we have some minutes left for some questions from the audience. If someone has a question. Markus.
Thank you. I would like to get a little bit above this more detailed discussion and look at the goals of OER. So we talked about SDG goals for inclusiveness, for access to high quality education. So I'm thinking about this too a lot. So what problems can OER solve? Like access to education, high quality, inclusiveness. But I think there is more in terms of the complex educational institutions. So maybe you have some ideas how we can address more the problems and point to a solution, namely OER. Instead of what you, Susanne, did was yeah, I think useful to clarify what is OER, but maybe it's better to address the problems and then like the instrument, the working instrument. Afterwards, introduce OER, but start with the problems, and we have the solutions. I think we have a lot of problems, and maybe we need a mapping of the problems, and then try to, how can we address it with OER?
Well, actually, I've done this analysis. I've not it on top of my head. I've wrote a blog post about it. That because what are the two affordances of OER? Those are two things. That they are freely available, and you have the right to adapt. Well, and then from there you can infer for which problems that could be a solution. One of the solutions. It is not the solution, the only solution. It is in most cases a mixture of other things. But for instance, what in Netherlands is internationalization of education and flexibilization of education are two of the big tasks. I wouldn't call it a problem, but those are two tasks where every institution, higher education institution in the Netherlands, is facing. They have a demand to make their education more flexible, whatever it may be, and to have more international students participating in their courses. But there is a big problem in the Netherlands, and now I say the word problem, for instance, in the internationalization, because a lot of students are coming to the Netherlands, but we don't have the buildings for them, because there is a shortage of houses in the Netherlands for everyone. So if there are a lot of students coming to the Netherlands, then then we have a problem. We can't give them a room. We can't accommodate them. So and there could open educational resources could be a means, or MOOCs or whatever, to fill in part of this internationalization task that institutions have to make virtual connections with virtual cooperations with institutions, and in that and by sharing your materials across those institutions, it is very transparent where. How each topic is handled in each institution, and therefore you can come to this cooperation for internationalization, for instance. That is one problem. Flexibilization, it could add or it could support it, because instead of the one textbook you have for a course, you have a multitude of materials available, which can support a multitude of pedagogies and didactics you want to use in your case, which is also a kind of flexibilization, and there it could be part of the solution to handle this challenge.
All right. You want to add, or are there any other questions left from the audience or even online?
I just wanted to add to Robert and Marco's question. Let's face it, there's still a lot of work to do on research about OER, especially the use for the students. And I'm hoping that in the coming month and years, within the framework of the OER strategy, there will be room for research. And we will be spreading it on OER Info. That's what I can say to that.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for coming here, for contributing your ideas and thoughts. It was very interesting, I think. And thanks for you guys for staying here so late. I think I can hand over the microphone now to my colleague Alexander, who's going to say some closing words to that conference. Have a nice weekend.